Good afternoon and welcome to this December 9th, 2020 City Council work session. Thank you for joining us in this remote meeting format we're using in response to Governor Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables the City Council to meet and take care of business while keeping its members, staff, and the public safe. For work sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for the meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. Thank you again for joining us. And with that, I think we're ready to kick it off with our first item of business, CAP 2.0 update.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm joined today by Chelsea Clinton, who's got a presentation and update for you.
Hi, everyone. For folks watching at home, I'm Chelsea Clinton. I'm the Sustainability Manager for the city. And today I'm here to give you an update on the city's climate action work. And with that, I'll go ahead and start sharing slides. Let's see. Mayor, is that looking okay for you? Yep, perfect. Thank you. All right, so today I'll give an update on our community engagement efforts. I'll share an update on our greenhouse gas emissions inventories, and I'll also share a recommendation on the pathways that you passed, on the motions that you passed in July 2020 around the CAP 2.0. So community engagement is first up. So you might remember that the CAP 2.0 includes 6 community engagement initiatives. I'll give a quick update on how we're moving forward on each of those. So first, we've been developing our community campaign around our climate work called the Shift Campaign. We did a pilot launch of this work to help roll out the 13th Avenue Bikeway Project, which helps better connect the University of Oregon to downtown via a bike path. We'll be working to integrate that branding on climate projects throughout our community and to develop related materials communicating individual household and neighborhood actions. Second, we've been working with a staff team to redevelop our equity panel. The goal is to develop a panel that serves multiple programs across the city, including sustainability. We are working through what it could look like and excited for the possibility to develop a panel that will help staff and community members see connections across programs, areas, including stronger connections between those programs and our climate work. Third, we'll also be meeting with our Eugene Climate Collaborative partners in the coming months to discuss our collective climate priorities and continue to identify where we have opportunities to collaborate in our climate work. Fourth, we've been developing an outreach plan to learn about what a sustainable business engagement strategy should look like for our community. Our community development and recovery teams have been involved in designing that outreach, and we're looking forward to beginning that outreach in the new year. Fifth, our team also supports the Sustainability Commission. And as you know from their presentation, the Commission is hard at work developing policy recommendations and deepening relationships in the community that will accelerate our climate efforts. And then last on those 6 outreach efforts was reporting and accountability, and I'll talk about that in some detail later in the presentation. I also wanted to share that we received a $15,000 grant from the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. The grant funds are being used to further develop the city's Spanish language access work. As part of the city's response to COVID-19, the city began working with Alex Reyna at La Iquis Facebook radio station to record and produce Spanish language radio spots. The platform was also used to inform Spanish-speaking community members about curfews and fire safety during additional states of emergency. With this grant, we were able to continue these radio spots and broaden the topics covered. The program is called Here in the City and airs every Monday at 6 p.m. and the weekly spots are informational at this time. We're experimenting though with some interactive components. Sustainability will be featured in the next couple of months, and our plan is to share information on our program and to develop an interactive session where we can gain some feedback about our sustainable business work. This work is being led by my colleagues Lorna Flormo on the Human Rights team and Beatrice Hernandez in the Police Auditor's Office, and of course, Alex Reyna at La Iquis. And we hope to continue the production after the grant period as a way to stay connected to our Spanish-speaking community. Last, around community engagement, I'll share the work we've been doing internally to reboot and rethink our internal climate action team. As you know, it's going to take everyone, including staff across our organization, to reach our climate goals. So internally, we have a policy team that includes 4 executives, the CMO director, and sustainability program staff to help guide our work at a high level. We also have another team called the Internal Climate Action Team. We've been working to recalibrate this group over the last few months. It now includes representation from every department in the city, with more than 25 staff members, including staff responsible for our climate work around our internal operations, like our fleet and facilities managers, as well as staff responsible for community-facing climate work, including staff leading efforts around transportation, waste prevention, staff from the recovery team, and staff who focus on equity, just to name a few. This group's mission is to find opportunities to move our climate work forward by collaborating, inspiring each other, and holding each other accountable. On the screen, I just include a few examples of the climate work from across the city. There's much more going on, but these are just some of the examples that I wanted to share today. And I'll just read a couple out. The second bullet there talks about our transportation planning team's work to reboot the Rev Up Eugene electric vehicle workshops. As you know, electric vehicles are a big part of the CAP 2.0, and that educational program helps get the word out to community members and helps that become more accessible. That's a partnership between the city, the University of Oregon, EWEB, and the Emerald Valley Electric Vehicle Association. And then the other item I'll highlight today is the last bullet. Our fire department, emergency management team, and many others across the city were instrumental in responding to the Holiday Farm fire. As we see the impacts of climate change hit our community more frequently, it'll be important to talk about how we're responding to that in our climate resiliency planning. So next was reporting and accountability. This year, more than 400 cities worldwide reported their climate efforts to CDP, formerly known as the Carbon Disclosure Project. Eugene was one of 88 cities on the 2020 CDP Cities A list, receiving the highest rating for both our efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and build resilience to the impacts of climate change. This score reflects our community's commitment to continue to do the hard work and find ways to lead on climate action. Congratulations to everyone in our community who's helped push our climate work forward. This score is a reflection of your work and our collective work together. Next, as you know, we released our greenhouse gas emissions inventories yesterday. Updates to our greenhouse gas emissions inventories yesterday. We updated these inventories every 2 years in alignment with the CRO. These updated inventories use data from 2019. This slide shows our emissions from city operations. Emissions from operations have decreased by about 16% since 2010, but increased about 24% compared to emissions from 2017. When we think about our emissions from operations, we generally think about them in 2 categories. We have fleet and facilities. In the fleet category, emissions from diesel fuel increased by about 764 metric tons, making up the greatest portion of this overall increase since 2017. In 2017, our fleet used 99% renewable diesel, or R99 fuel, for nearly all of our diesel fuel needs. And then in 2019, we primarily used R50, meaning that 50% was renewable diesel and 50% was regular diesel. This was due to market factors like availability and price. And at times, this renewable diesel cost up to $1 more per gallon than the regular diesel. The market has since stabilized and prices have come down significantly. So we're back to using R99 and we expect emissions to drop accordingly. In our facilities category, we saw some increase use of natural gas across city operations. One reason was due to increase in use in facilities, and I'll use the Holt Center as an example. They had more performances in 2019 than in the past, and so that building was operating at full throttle more often, and so that led to increased energy use. We also made some HVAC improvements that we anticipate will lower emissions from the facilities side of things. So overall, we anticipate emissions to drop back down and hopefully improve in our next inventory. We continue to look for ways to implement our internal climate action plans. For example, we continue to convert our fleet to electric vehicles whenever possible, and we look for opportunities to electrify buildings, capitalizing on EWEB's low carbon electricity. It's also unclear what the impacts of COVID-19 will be. In many cases, if we've seen at the national level, that's led to decreased emissions as well. But we'll update these inventories again in 2022 using 2021 data and be able to see that impact more clearly then. This year is also the first year we are purchasing offsets so that we can meet the goals in the CRO. City Council allocated funding for that in the FY21 budget, and the purchasing process is underway. We anticipate making that purchase in the next 1 to 2 months. Next, we also released our community-wide greenhouse gas inventory update. Emissions increased slightly community-wide, but by about 10,000 metric tons. The increase stems primarily from increased residential energy consumption in the transportation sector. Commercial and industrial energy consumption decreased during the same period. So overall, it's a slight increase, and we hope that these emissions will drop as we implement some of the CAP 2.0 strategies, and then we also see changes at the state and federal level. Last, for reporting and accountability, I wanted to share that the CAP 2.0 annual report and the climate dashboard are both in progress. We hope to release an abbreviated annual report before the end of the calendar year this year. We are working with our internal climate action team to develop a more robust report for next year. And we're working with the Sustainability Commission right now to develop that climate dashboard. Next, I'll talk about CAP 2.0 actions in progress. So this is what we're working on right now in our community. So this first slide, it feels really busy, and that's for a reason. We're doing a lot of work. These are just the actions that show what's due in 2021. So there are about 23 listed on this page, all of them with deadlines or milestones in 2021. And for the purposes of this discussion, I'll just read the ones that are highlighted in blue. But no, I just want you to know that there's a lot of work happening and people are working really hard to implement the CAP. So first, as you're well aware, Action B1, the city and Northwest Natural are working on coming to an agreement over the franchise agreement, and we expect that work to wrap up in early 2021. Action B6, we're looking at our City of Eugene facility upgrades, and in particular, Echo Hollow and Campbell Community Center are underway. And I mentioned that in particular today because I asked Renee Gruby, our recreation executive, and also Jeff Perry, our facilities manager, to be here today. So if you have questions about that, really encourage you to ask them today. There's lots of great work happening there around our climate goals. And then we have Action T19. Our first growth monitoring program report is due in 2021. That's out of the planning division and part of our Envision Eugene work. As you all know, our planning work is very much tied up to our climate work. And so we want to be highlighting all that they're doing. And then last, T47 is really about what we're doing at the federal level to continue to lobby for climate action, both in terms of policy and investment at the local level. So also really important to our CAP 2.0 goals. This slide looks pretty similar. Lots of actions here, and this is just a sample of the ongoing actions that are captured in the CAP 2.0 that all tie into our climate work. So I think I could fill probably 3 or 4 slides total with this tiny print of all the actions happening. Just wanted to give you some quick highlights today though. So Action B11, UWEB and Northwest Natural continue their limited income assistance programs, which you all know is really important in this time, and that also helps us reach our climate goals. They also have energy conservation and education programs happening. Action F5, the city continues to use warm mix asphalt in all their construction projects. We have a lot going on even now with the current economic situation around construction. And as you know, Public Works is a big leader in climate works around the country. And their climate work around the country, they're able to integrate a lot of climate actions into their work. So I wanted to highlight that we continue to look for those opportunities to reduce our emissions through those projects. And then Action T1, the transportation system plan implementation, takes up probably one of the least amount of room on this slide, but it's one of the most important actions to the CAP 2.0, and there are a ton of projects underway to implement that plan. And then last, the sustainability program. This just highlights the work that we're focusing on this year. So the sustainability program includes myself and my colleague Samantha Roberts. So we're 2 FTE strong, and we're doing a lot of work around the organization. So we're leading the community engagement efforts that I talked about earlier. we're focusing on the CAP 2.0 and particularly focusing on the actions that City Council added to the CAP 2.0 in 2019. And I list those policy pieces there. We're not necessarily the leads on all these, but we do pay special attention to them, given that they were kind of additions to folks' work. So we're helping to shepherd those along. And then the last category highlighted there is our internal climate action work. So we continue to convene our internal climate action teams. We support our fleet facilities and fire service areas as they implement their climate plans. And we're working on completing that purchase of carbon offsets this year. So with that, we'll move on to the CAP 2.0 motions approved in July 2020. So just to recenter everyone, after the CAP 2.0 was approved in July 29th of 2020, these two motions were passed, and I'll just read through them so everyone can be reminded of what we're talking about. First, the first motion was to bring back to council the cost and timeline to complete a high-level analysis of all the community and equity panel ideas for potential action included in the CAP 2.0 in the fall, considering estimated costs per ton of emissions reductions, co-benefits, feasibility, and equity impacts. And then second, bring back a process and timeline to create a CAP 2.0 implementation plan in the fall with special consideration to the ideas brought forward by the Sustainability Commission. So before I dive into the approach, I just wanted to provide a few framing comments, again, pulled from the July work session. So at that work session, I heard many of you express a desire to balance these motions with continuing to implement all of our climate actions. So that'll be reflected in the timeline that I propose. I really want to make sure we can continue on and not disrupt the implementation process as best we can. I also heard some of you define high level as putting things into categories like red, yellow, green, or into 3 buckets or something similar. So when I use that term or that phrase today, that's how I'm thinking about it. Third, we shared this approach that I'm going to share with you with many stakeholders. And in particular, I wanted to mention that we shared it with the Sustainability Commission's CAP 2.0 Oversight Committee, as well as the whole commission, and they're really supportive of the approach that I'll share. And last, the ideas that were brought forward by the Sustainability Commission that are referenced in motion 2 actually fit better with motion 1, and the commission agreed with me when we walked through the approach, and they're supportive of kind of moving them over into motion 1. So that's the way I'll address them today. So for the high-level analysis of the 113 equity panel recommendations and community ideas, my recommendation is to turn this task over to the internal climate action team that I referenced earlier in this presentation. They'll sort the actions into 3 categories initially: actions already in the CAP 2.0, actions better led by other partners, and then actions best led by the city. For the actions best led by the city, staff will do a high-level evaluation of their climate impact, their equity impact, and the cost, scoring the ideas on these 3 dimensions. Staff will make note of other co-benefits if they're apparent. Each idea will get a score, and we will be able to rank the ideas based on that score. Once we score them, we'll bring the list back to the Sustainability Commission and to City Council, and you can make adjustments at that time. But the goal is to really drive towards what are the top 10 ideas out of the 113. And then once we get those top 10 ideas, we can do further, more robust analysis in a second phase of the work. The Sustainability Commission asked that we note which ideas they preferred, but they did not think that should lead to higher scores for those ideas. And then for the CAP 2.0 implementation plan, I'm preparing an easy to read table that includes the 115 Eugene Climate Collaborative actions, the responsible party for each of those actions, the climate impact, the timeline, a high-level triple bottom line analysis, a high-level cost estimate, and then we'll note the budget source if funding is secured. Then you ask for the timeline and cost of each motion. That's addressed directly here. Again, the timeline is meant to balance the desire to continue implementation while also completing these additional pieces of analysis. It reflects the desire that I heard in July to keep things as low cost as possible. First, I propose starting with the CAP 2.0 implementation plan. I'm asking for 12 months to create that plan with no additional costs anticipated. We'll keep it at a high level. It'll be a table, and we can absorb that into our existing work. And then second, in the yellow, I propose starting with the analysis of the 113 community ideas mid-year this year and completing that work over 12 months. This will allow staff time to adjust and absorb that work as well. Again, there's no additional cost anticipated for that approach. And then last, once we identify the top 10 ideas, we can do a deeper policy analysis that will provide the information you may need for implementation. This would include things like a thorough analysis of the climate, equity, and cost impacts, getting out of that 3-bucket scenario and getting more down to the actual numbers, as well as other co-benefits. It would also include some implementation options. So we think about different options from regulation to voluntary, and there's a spectrum usually for many actions. Based on some of the initial estimates from Good Company, if we outsource this work, I anticipate it would cost $45,000 if we outsource it all. But depending on the ideas that emerge, we may be able to do this in-house. And the timeline I have here, we anticipate finishing that work up in July 2023. And that's all I have for today. So I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. That is a kind of a dizzying amount of detail in a very short period of time, but I think reflects how exhaustive the work is in terms of what the city is doing internally and then the outreach to the community. So it was very interesting, and I'm going to have to look at the slides again to read all of the small print. But thank you. And I have Greg and then Alan in the queue. So take it away, Greg.
Yeah, I think this was an excellent presentation, Chelsea, and this is really good work that's being done. But I want to get to the most thorny issue on that list, and that is the Northwest Natural Agreement. We're now in our third iteration of going around with them, trying to, come to some terms that will align their company's position in some degree with our CRO. And they don't seem to be either ready to or willing to budge on any substantive or significant compromises in this area where they have a real plan in place to reduce carbon emissions. But it's really more of, we're here, we're not going to go away, and give me more, give me more, give me more, particularly with extending infrastructure, as well as other parts of their business. So basically they, want to remain unchanged in the way they're going about business, which is basically flying in the face of our climate recovery policy. I know, and this may be more of an Ethan question, but if you can respond, Chelsea, I would appreciate it.
Thanks, Councilor Evans. I'm feeling a little nervous because we are in negotiations. I'm not always 100% clear on what's confidential and what's public. So
you don't have to disclose all the nitty gritty details, but try to give us a high level, overview.
Yeah, I'm not particularly comfortable doing that here, but I can certainly follow up with Ethan. And Sarah, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was looking to see if Ethan was on the call. I know he's down the hallway. So can we just hold that question for just a minute, Councilor Evans, and we can see whether he can jump on and answer or whether we need to schedule a brief work session update with you.
Okay, and we can, that's fine. I know I'm coming out of left field with this, but.
And we can also certainly send you an update, an email update. Hua Go, Assistant City Attorney in my office, is the one from my office that's heading those negotiations, and I'm happy she can send you something that gives you an update on where they are in the negotiations, and then it's protected by attorney-client privilege.
Gotcha.
That sounds perfect. We'll do that.
Okay, thank you, Alan, and then Claire.
Yeah, as I sit on the steering committee for Northwest Natural Negotiations along with Emily and Claire, I wouldn't characterize it the way you characterized it, Greg. I would say that we are actually making progress and moving towards an agreement. It is the first in the country in this kind of agreement, and it's complicated. So to me, complicated and first equals slow. And so we are making progress and towards an agreement. So I would not characterize it the way you did, but we can get an update on that. Chelsea, really good presentation. It's just a lot of work. It's amazing how much work actually is going on. Those slides are super busy. The stuff that's happening in 2021 and the ongoing represents, like 40, 50 things that we're doing. So that's awesome. Just one of those, like updating the TSP, that's just one out of all those 40, 50. And it's pretty extensive to do and a significant amount of staff time that goes into doing that. So I don't think anybody should be saying that we're not doing enough, much less not doing anything, which I've heard, which isn't true at all. I mean, this list is pretty impressive. And if they want us to speed this up and want us to do more, I suggest people lobby the budget process for more FTE or more dollars for consultants to make this stuff go faster. I think the timeline that you put forward, given all of that context, seems very appropriate, especially considering we really only have 2 FTE working on this on a full-time basis. So that's a significant amount of resources, and a lot more than most everybody except for Portland is doing. And I really like the funneling process slide that you had, that all the steps where we get to the top 10 city-led most promising items and then do a deep dive into those. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. We can't do it all, so we need to be selective. So figuring that out, there's 113 of those things. So figuring out which ones are the best ones. And those were all everywhere from, here's an idea to something more substantive than that, but they're all very high level ideas. So they need a lot of process to do that. I like your action plan slides. I think the what, who, how much, all in that action plan. I think that's the difference between action plans that sit on the shelf and people ignore and action plans that actually get implemented. So, if it shows up on someone's work plan with their name on it, it gets done. Imagine that. So I think that's a really good way to approach it too, and make sure that we actually are going to get to the implementation part of it, along with all the other stuff we're doing. And then finally, I think the equity panel input is really, really important in all of this work as well. So thanks for doing that part too.
Okay, thank you, Claire, and then Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chelsea, for the update. I agree that it's an impressive amount of work that we've put on staff's plate and on our own plate and on everyone in the city's plate. And it's nice to be acknowledged in terms of the list that we made. I know there are folks in our community who are very skeptical of our progress, but I think sometimes it's easy to forget, as Alan said, we are doing some things first that other cities haven't been trying to do. And so it can be slow, difficult work, but I think we should be proud that we are attempting to undertake it. Just a few comments and questions. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the new systems at Echo Hollow Pool and Campbell Community Center and how that new infrastructure will contribute to our climate recovery goals.
Yeah, Renee or Jeff, do you want to jump in?
Absolutely, I'm happy to talk about it. So Campbell Community Center, we are implementing a VRF system, an all electric heating and cooling system. And so our carbon footprint will be 0 for that facility. The energy use there was never huge in the first place. So that's a modest impact, but the really big one is Echo Hollow Pool. And so we've moved away from natural gas, a boiler system, and are implementing, it's called an air mech unit from Italy, and it's a super high efficient heat pump. And that will be the primary heat source for the pool. And so I think we reduce our carbon footprint by around 90%, 95%, something like that. We are leaving the existing boiler in place just because it could be used as a backup. And then when the weather gets super cold, we'll have the opportunity to use that as supplemental, but just kind of the day-to-day operations will be running on that heat pump. So we're super excited about that. There's also a rather large photovoltaic array that will be placed on, that's already on top of Echo Hollow, that will help reduce the electrical energy use as well. And we're implementing some different measures as far as blankets over the pools and some screening to reduce wind, which is a big factor, as much as the heat loss. Just the evaporation of the pools really increases energy use when we don't cover them. And so we have a lot of different measures in place for that facility. Sheldon Pool is another one that's coming soon. It's indoors, so the impact to to energy use is a little less than Echo Hollow, since we have outdoor pools, but the bids will be coming in on that within the next week and a half, something like that. And so we're excited about that, and looking at opportunities with that project as well.
And I would just add, when you look at the pools in total, you have to look at the triple bottom line of all of it. You can't just think of it as the pools as energy users. You have to think about the benefits and the value to the community because of the use of that energy. And when you look at the Echo Hollow pool in particular, you see the increased benefit for access to that community that hasn't had it in the past. So access and equity is really important, the health benefits for it. And then also the importance of a community that is surrounded by water and the ability to do more safety education to give people the skills to be safe, especially during times when we're seeing warmer summers and more folks wanting to get in our rivers.
Great, thanks. That is exciting news to hear, and looking forward to the upgrades at Sheldon as well. So one of the things I think I heard, or I believe I read in an update, was that at some point we, for some of our fleet, were, because of price differences, purchasing non-renewable fuel for a while, instead of using the higher cost, lower emission option. So I don't know if this is something the city manager can address, but I'm just wondering, so that's a challenge to me. Like, I think we need to be thinking about our budgets in a way. Obviously, we want to be cost efficient with taxpayer dollars, but we also have this goal, these very important goals. And so I'm just wondering how staff makes that calculation and to balance those two different things.
We can definitely answer that. I don't know, Matt, whether you want to jump in, because you've probably had more recent conversations about this than when I was sitting in that role. Otherwise, I will answer that.
I'll add a little bit, Sarah, and good afternoon, Mayor and Councilors. I'm Matt Rodriguez, Acting Public Works Director. Councilor Sarette, I don't think I can answer all of your question, but what I can say is it's not only price, it's actually availability. So that has been a challenge for us. Biodiesel is something that we kind of embarked upon early in that process. And when the new product came out that actually has less emissions, but has had as it's developed its own societal issues around how the oil that was being used for it was come upon. We've kind of watched it, tried to make sure it was moving in a sustainable way, and then also taken advantage of it when the market allowed it to be available. There were a lot of, if I remember correctly, and Chelsea jump in, there was a lot of demand that surged when is it regenerative? I forget the name of the diesel product now. Renewable diesel came online. That drove the price price not up just a little, but like kind of sky high in a way that we couldn't compete for that product. So I think now the market is stabilizing somewhat, and we're seeing how we can continue to invest in that new fuel source. And it does come with less impact to the operations of our fleet. Biodiesel has always had some challenges in how we actually operate equipment. So we really do like trying to move to that new lower carbon and easier to operate fuel as it's available.
Sorry, button problems. Thank you. I would love if there's some policies that you have that helped guide staff in these decisions. I would love to see those policies just so I know what the foundation is around that. And then Chelsea, you mentioned in terms of the outline that you've proposed for taking up the additional ideas to filter it to a point where staff has helped identify the top 10 ideas. This is not our end of year best, movie list. So I'm not certain that 10 is the right number. Maybe it should be 15, maybe it should be 20. And I think because our timeline is kind of long, I think we need to be prepared to have some of the ideas on that list to maybe become irrelevant or addressed in another manner or another venue. I'm thinking of state or federal action that might come into play. And Mayor, I'd like a second round for just another quick comment.
Could I respond to that? Would that be okay? The way that we've designed the process is that when we're all done with the scoring, you should be able to see number 1 and number 113 all ranked. And so it does leave a lot of flexibility actually for you all to say, no, we want the top 20 or no, we want the top 5. And also like, maybe you think number 20 should be number 5 for some co-benefit that didn't come into account through the calculation. So it leaves a lot of flexibility and it should be very transparent.
Okay, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chelsea, for the report and all of the hard work. That presentation reflects an awful lot of work. So good for you. Nicely done. I think Claire hit upon something that connects to my question here. That's really interesting. It isn't our job as council to get down into the weeds of specific decisions that public work makes about fuel or so forth, but we do have to guide the policy, and oftentimes we're asked to make decisions that are based upon a number of very specific pieces of information about price and about carbon content of things. And that's a really good question, in my opinion, Claire asked, because where is that line between what we can afford to do and what we have to do with regard to the climate? So in that spirit, that was the questions that I had here. I am sure with the deep dive that you have done and that all of the folks associated with the Sustainability Commission that do that work professionally and everyone else has probably got these details I'm about to ask about, but I don't. And they bear on several decisions we're making soon. And so I'm hoping you can provide all of council at some point with some kind of base level of information along the following lines. I have been told that you create a great many more greenhouse gas emissions by making electricity with natural gas rather than by burning the gas. That there's a loss in energy there in the process of doing that. So there's also a different amount of greenhouse gas created by whether it's electricity created by coal or by wind or by solar or by hydro or whatever that is. I don't know those differences, and I'd like to know what is the carbon emissions of electricity produced by gas and by solar per kilowatt hour or whatever. And also then, what's the cost to eWeb to buy that on the market, because we don't have generating facilities for all of those sorts. And so we have to buy it at a wholesale level. And when there's, I know that number is different when there's peak demand and so forth. So I'd like to make account for that. And I know that while one of the decisions we'll make, and one of our goals is to increase radically the amount of electricity we use and decrease gas. And my questions then are, okay, cool, what's the trade-off? What's the cost? If we're buying gas excuse me, if EWEB's buying a great deal more electricity already, and the majority of it's produced by gas, what's the trade-off in terms of increased greenhouse gas emissions and increased cost? And Mayor, I need a second round, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Claire and Alan and then Mike for a second round, but I did want to just jump in and follow up on Mike's comments there. You have noted that EWEB is undertaking electrification study, and maybe you could kind of remind us what the timeline is on that and what that's going to cover.
I know that they're anticipating finishing that study in 2021. The first phase really looked at sources of that electricity, and I know they were hoping to look at more of the cost information in phase 2. And I can try and find out more information. I'll see if I can get someone from UP to give me that information now, and if not, I'll follow up after the work session.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful at answering some of those questions. All right, Claire, then Alan, and then Mike, if you need to come back.
Mayor, I see that Betty has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Betty, I missed you. Betty, why don't you jump in? Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. And thank you, Claire, for making me not invisible. First, I have a question. What do accessory dwellings have to do with climate change? Is building accessory dwellings helping climate?
Yeah, housing, including accessory dwelling units, have a big impact on our climate. So first we can think about it from like a zoning level, and we want to encourage more compact development to help hit our climate goals. That allows people to get to work and access other services that they need without using as much transportation. And then when we think about the housing stock itself, smaller houses tend to use less energy, and they tend to hold less things, which tends to drive people to consume less, which is another big part of our plan. So that's just to name a few of the items that are connected to ADUs. But as we think about our housing options and what kind of housing stock we have in our community, that has a direct impact on our climate work.
Okay, that's a case where we ought to look at other effects like taking up the soil, which could be used for food security, which has to do with climate control, and taking away the sunlight, which helps to grow crops, and some other things, I think. But then I think it's good that Campbell Center and Echo Hollow Pool are going to be electrified. I'm sure everyone has seen all the emails about stopping the expansion of natural gas infrastructure. And I don't think that just because there are a lot of them, it means so much as the fact that they're for good reasons. And these are people who don't have anything to gain from what we do about natural gas, no financial gain, nothing, no gain to their business, or they're just concerned about the climate. And it's something that I didn't know about till a few years ago, that the things that happen with natural gas, but I've been convinced that also it's bad for children to be in a place where they use natural gas. If that's true, this is an equity thing. But I think I had hoped that we would have a possible motion to ban the expansion of infrastructure for natural gas. I think that's something that people have been demanding, and whether the majority vote for it or not, people have a right to see whether their councilors support it. And also, as Mike has pointed out, the Williams and Dane need to know if we're going to ban it. We don't know whether that will affect their plans or not, but it's only fair to let them know. Whichever side you're on, we should make a decision instead of postponing it forever. And I thought that we might have a possible motion, but we don't have it now. And is that being considered? Anybody?
We don't have that motion ready today, and I think the direction to staff right now is to work on the negotiation with Northwest Natural. So that's what we're operating under for the time being. I don't know if Catherine or Sarah, you want to add anything?
I think we should make a decision, but thank you. That's all.
Okay, Claire and then Alan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had one more piece of information that I think is relevant to this conversation. So I serve on the Lane Area Commission on Transportation. And right now, the Oregon Transportation Commission is taking input from the ACTs, which are throughout the state, on prioritizing for transportation projects for the next round of funding, which is in 2024. And for the Lane Act, we are communicating to the Oregon Transportation Commission that we want to see active transportation projects, so bike, ped, transit, put at a higher priority than increasing highway infrastructure and other more traditional ODOT priorities. So I think this would be the first time that the Lane Act really put that forward in as strong a voice as we are. And if the Oregon Transportation Commission does really raise the priority level of active transportation, that would be a significant change in their approach to how they think about priorities for Oregon transportation system for 2024. So I just wanted to share that since it was relevant to the rest of the conversation.
Thank you. Alan and then Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for asking that about the new infrastructure, Claire, at the Campbell Center and the Echo Hall Pool and Sheldon Pool. All that new infrastructure is going to be very cool. When you do one of these plans, you do what's done traditionally has been develop a McKenzie curve or a marginal abatement cost curve, a MAC curve. What that basically is it figures out, does the analysis and figures out what's the most cost-effective stuff to do and what's the least cost-effective stuff to do, puts them in a row, and then jiggers that into an implementation plan based on impact. So you should do the really cost-effective stuff to do first, and the least cost-effective stuff to do very last, and maybe technology will help us solve it in the long term. But on the impact side, like transportation is a huge part of our greenhouse gas emissions, and not that much is being done on it, but we are starting to pivot and turn towards that. And I know at Department of Transportation, Oregon Department of Transportation, ODOT and OTC, there's a new director at ODOT, and with the governor's executive orders, there's a transformation that's occurring at ODOT about how they look at greenhouse gases, how they implement it, and how they incorporate it into their work. And as far as the electrification study that EWEB's doing, they're one of the reasons we always get high green city marks, and in the top 10 usually is in part because of the green resources that UAP has. Like 85% of their energy comes from renewables to start with. And so using more electrification is good as long as there's more of that. And the question comes, as we add more more low load, where's that electricity going to come from? I don't think it actually is going to come from fossil fuels. I think natural gas is not the lowest cost incremental resource. It's wind and solar, and energy storage with batteries is coming on strong, and those coupled together make a powerful clean energy resource that can fulfill that electrification load over the next 20 years without using fossil fuels. And as well, in the legislature, I believe there's going to be some clean energy standard legislation that would, in the 21 legislature, that would have 95 to 100% of our electricity would have, all of our energy, in particular electricity, by mid-century would have to be completely clean or close to. California and Washington already have that in play. So I see that as moving forward as well. And I think that's the path we're going to be on over the next couple of years. I think actually we're in a good place with electrification with regard to not using fossil fuels and using renewables. So no greenhouse gas emissions.
Thank you. Mike, one more round.
Thank you, Mayor. Alan touched on kind of some of the larger points of the information that I was asking for there, Chelsea, because some of those decisions about long-term savings are being made now. And I think we need to understand the balance of short-term and long-term. And I appreciate what the mayor is saying too, with regard to what the study that eWeb's doing. I've mentioned a couple of times that I think some of our decisions hinge on the information that they're going to provide. And I think we should make them after we have facts rather than before. I want to be real clear about what I'm asking for in terms of returned information from you. The cost per kilowatt hour to eWeb of production of electricity in those different categories that I mentioned, what the GHG emissions look like there for each of those sources, and how that pricing changes over different demand curves. So, you know, as demand gets stronger in the short term, based on what we do now, as opposed to where we're going, which I look forward to as well, what does that look like? Now, those are all, and the difference at eWeb between what they pay to produce something and what they actually charge people who live in our community. That's a huge difference for me. It's one thing to say what it costs the municipality or the organization, but it's another thing to say what gets passed on to the consumer in their daily lives. What does it cost for those differences for eWeb to produce it, and what do they charge people? Secondarily, as the mayor was talking about there, there are two different really important parts of a cost analysis. There's as Alan has mentioned many times, there's the operational costs that we're talking about right now as time goes on, but there's also the capital costs of conversion. So some of the decisions we're making too, like Betty brought up, and I agree with her, should we stop creating any infrastructure at all? Okay, that's looking forward. Looking back, we're doing a lot of measurements about greenhouse gas based on the infrastructure that's already in place. So if we were to, for example, as many have suggested, convert entirely in our community from any gas use to electricity, I would be also very interested in the capital cost. What's it cost to move the Holt Center from one to the other? What's it cost the average homeowner in order to convert from gas to electricity, heat and cooking and everything else? And on a larger scale, commercially, with some of the, between manufacturing and all the other places where you can, what are the costs of the capital costs of conversion in our community so that we can have real discussions about this? Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. That was a lot of questions and I think a lot of answers that are coming our way. So really appreciate your report, Chelsea, and appreciate the conversation. And I think it really is time for us to go on to our second item of business today. So we'll close out this conversation, look forward to the next round, and move on to our next item, which is housing tools and strategies, a discussion on inclusionary housing.
Mayor, thank you. I'm joined by Ann Fifield, who is here today and again next week. So it's sort of the Ann Fifield end of year show.
All right. Well, good afternoon. I'm Ann Fifield, the Economic Strategies Manager in the Community Development Division. And in response to a council request, we're here today to provide information on inclusionary zoning, which has been used as a tool to increase the number of affordable housing units in some communities. We're talking about inclusionary zoning, but it is one of many tools that might be considered through the Housing Tools and Strategies Initiative. And so I'm actually going to share my screen, let's see, that has slides within that. Let's make sure I can make this go. Let's see. Share, and then can everyone see that?
Yeah, we can see it, but we can also see your notes. So you need to go up to the display settings, which is above. Click on that display settings.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Does that work?
Yep, click the swap.
Thank you, Sarah. Technical advice from the city manager. So we want to talk about inclusionary zoning. within the context of housing tools and the Housing Tools and Strategies Initiative. And so as you all well know, housing affordability and availability is a long-standing problem in Eugene. And in 2018, City Council directed staff to implement what became the Housing Tools and Strategies Project to identify barriers to housing affordability, availability, and diversity, and to suggest, evaluate, and recommend possible strategies and tools to address those barriers. As part of the Housing Tools and Strategies Project, we contracted with a housing economics firm, and they conducted analysis to support the project. Their work included quite a bit of analysis of Eugene's demographics and our housing stock and how they interact with each other. And if there is one single take-home message from that analysis, is that the housing market is complex. With a broad spectrum of incomes, household size, and preferences, there's no easy solution to achieve widespread housing affordability. And so staff has been working to implement the various tools and strategies that emerged from Housing Tools and Strategies. And we've been providing you with quarterly updates from that project. Your packet for this work session included the latest quarterly update from October 31st as attachment B. And there we go. This slide is just a picture of the first page of that memo. The quarterly updates provide information on all the different projects that city staff are working on that address housing affordability. And the most recent memo covers our current work on changes to the land use code. It covers the work of the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee, and it has updates on new affordable housing projects. We hope these quarterly updates are useful, and we'd love to hear any feedback on them. But today, at your request, we're going to talk about inclusionary zoning, also known as IZ. And in 2016, the Oregon State Legislature passed Senate Bill 1533, which, among other things, enabled Oregon jurisdictions to implement a limited form of inclusionary zoning in their communities. And in April 2019, staff discussed with council the state's enabling legislation, how it's used in Oregon, and considerations for use of this tool in Eugene. IZ is a tool to incorporate units that are affordable to low or moderate income households as part of a market rate development. It's typically implemented at the local level. Lots of local jurisdictions across the country have adopted some kind of IZ policy, and those policies vary widely. There's mandatory IZ, which requires new market rate developments to include some portion of new units be available to households that are low or moderate income. And then there's voluntary IZ, which offers incentives, such as a reduction in fees or higher density if the developer creates units for a specified income level. Senate Bill 1533 also made it possible for local jurisdictions to establish a construction excise tax, which Eugene did in 2019. And one of the things we discussed in the previous work session was that if Eugene were to adopt mandatory inclusionary zoning, a portion of the city's CET, or the construction excise tax revenue, would have to be reserved for inclusionary zoning incentives that would be used by market rate development to incorporate affordable units. Only 31% of the CET revenue would be available for the city's discretionary use for affordable housing through the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And at that time, council expressed concern about that state limitation in that work session. And so in that work session, council asked a number of questions, and we are here today to answer those questions. We're going to start with a simple question that has a relatively complicated answer, surprisingly complicated answer. Are units required to be rented to families with below median income? The short answer is no, but the law gives local governments the ability to set a specific income limit and to require building owners to verify incomes before renting or selling the affordable units. So it's at the local government's discretion. The new state law aims to enable a tool to create housing for households at 80% of area median income, or AMI, and higher. SB 1533 defines affordable housing within the context of inclusionary zoning as housing units affordable to households with incomes at 80% AMI or above. And as you've seen with the affordable housing projects developed in Eugene, affordable housing developments that are funded with state and federal resources focus on households with incomes below 80% AMI. However, households with incomes between 80 and 120% of AMI are often cost burdened because they can't find housing that costs less than 30% of their income. This 80% AMI limit effectively places a floor on how low the rent or a sales price of the unit can be mandated through mandatory inclusionary zoning. So at the last work session on IZ, you learned that the Portland program allows developers to choose between building affordable units versus paying the fee in lieu. And you asked, let's see, if what percentage of eligible units in Portland chose to build affordable units versus pay the fee in lieu. And so Portland's mandatory IZ program is called inclusionary housing. It applies to all buildings with 20 or more units, and to date, all new developments with 20 or more units have chosen to build the units. None have chosen to pay the fee. Portland structured their program to encourage the construction of units. The city offers multiple incentives to developers to build the units. They include property tax exemptions, exemptions from their construction excise tax and their system development charges, and they offer density bonuses and parking requirement exemptions. So it was very explicitly designed to encourage the construction of units. Let's see, one of the most important questions council asked about IZ, has mandatory inclusionary zoning disincentivized development in Portland? We found out there is not a clear answer. The program is really too new to clearly show results. Portland's inclusionary housing program has only been in effect since February of 2017, and so it's just not yet known. In the year prior to the program's implementation, there was a big surge in permits for multi-unit apartments. Developers submitted permits before the new policy went into effect to avoid needing to meet its requirements. The Oregonian did an analysis and they reported that in the year before the program went into effect, Portland permitted over 6,000 units. The average annual number in the 4 years before that was just over 3,000 units. So in that last year before the new policy went into effect, housing production almost doubled from what it had been in the previous 4 years. The year after the program went into effect, only 650 or so units were permitted, 10% of the previous year, that big surge year. And so since that first year, permits have increased, but they haven't risen back to the trend before the big jump leading up to the program. And that big jump sort of makes a trend. There was such a big surge that it possibly dipped into future demand. Different people are going to interpret these numbers differently, but our assessment is that the policy just hasn't been in place long enough to really understand if it's disincentivized housing development. But there is some evidence that it slowed the market a little bit. So our answer is it's just not yet known. Let's see, you also asked a much easier question. If the units are converted to condominiums, would the affordability requirement go away? And there is nothing in the law that limits the conversion of housing tenure of affordable units. So it's possible to change them from rented to owner occupied. If converted to condominiums, going from renter to ownership, the units would still need to be the units would still need to be sold at an affordable rate if the units are still in their designated affordability period. The state law does not specify a length of time that affordable units produced by mandatory IZ are mandated to remain affordable. And this is a decision for the individual localities. And so as long as it's in their period of time, you can convert it from renter to owner, just keeping the price affordable. Your next question was, are there other inclusionary zoning programs in Oregon? And to date, Portland and Ashland are the only cities in Oregon with a mandatory inclusionary zoning program. Ashland's program is unique in that it has existed since the 1980s, and it was legacied into law the law that prohibited mandatory inclusionary zoning, which was later repealed by SB 1533. It also only applies to annexations of developments into the city limits. Then you asked, what would a voluntary program look like if council wanted to pursue it? And a voluntary program offers incentives to developers to encourage them to include affordable units. There is no single good IZ program. A successful program carefully looks at local market conditions. Some incentives that are readily available to cities include property tax exemptions, where the development can avoid property taxes for some set period. Eugene's MUPTI program essentially has become a voluntary IZ program. Under the most recent changes to the program, new development must either provide housing units affordable to low-income households or pay a fee that supports other affordable housing development. The city could also offer exemptions to its construction excise tax, its systems development charges, or exempt from parking requirements. For an exemption to be effective, the value of the incentive needs to be high enough to cover the reduced income associated with the affordable units to make it alluring to developers. Cities also offer density bonuses, which allow higher levels of density than what's allowed by right by the code. Eugene offers density bonuses now for affordable housing developments, and it is regularly used by our affordable housing developers. So any kind of incentives offered to encourage the development of affordable housing, they all should be calibrated to the local market to make sure they can have an impact. What works in Portland is unlikely to work in Eugene because we face similar costs to construct housing, but our rents are a lot lower. And so to be in fact impactful, we'd likely need to offer a combination of incentives. And also it's important to remember that all of these incentives have costs, including the cost of administering the program. And so then just to wrap it up, voluntary IZ is one of the many tools available to local governments to address housing affordability issues. It is not going to solve Eugene's housing problems, but it could be considered in the context of all the work the city's doing to address housing affordability and availability. The staff who've worked to assemble all of the information today are also assessing the progress that's been made on housing tools and strategies effort and how it can move forward. We're working to identify our next steps to address housing affordability, availability, and diversity. The Housing Tools and Strategies team hope to come back to council in early 2021 to provide an update on that overall work and how to move it forward in a strategic and a coordinated way. We recommend that inclusionary zoning be considered within that broader discussion of how to address housing affordability, availability, and diversity. And that concludes my part of the work session. Lots of folks who work on housing are here and available to answer questions. So I turn it back over to the mayor and we're happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you so much. And I actually just want to say that I very much appreciated the format that you provided both in the packet and just now, just sort of going through the questions and the answers. That was really, really helpful. So I have Betty in the queue and then Mike.
Thank you. First, I'm very disappointed that it took so many years for us to get around to this, even after it was permitted. I'm disappointed in that the amount of information we have. I was hoping that we would have information about inclusionary zoning programs in other parts of the country. There are states and cities that have it. There's a lot of it that's been going on for many years. Actually, when I was first on council, you could still do inclusionary zoning. And I don't think I'm responsible for the states doing it, but I started talking about it immediately and the state banned it. And finally, after many years, they lifted the ban partially. And Portland did something immediately. We have stalled for so long, but I think it's not just affordability, that's part of it, but it's also integration, which is a part of equity. It's really, I'm thinking from the point of view of children, it's better to live in a place that everybody doesn't know is subsidized. And this would not be subsidized. It would just be, in my view, it wouldn't be subsidized. But anyway, it's better to live along with other people. people of other incomes. We talk about racial integration, but income integration is important too, I think. It helps with school integration. If people are scattered about, not isolated according to their income, but integrated, then the schools are more likely to be income integrated. I don't think it should be voluntary. I think it should be required. I really wish we had a motion to vote on motions to vote on different possibilities of implementing inclusionary zoning, which we don't have right now, and I don't think anything's going to happen anytime soon. But I think there have been apartment buildings going up, which could have included lower cost units while we're stalling. It applies also to housing developments some places, as well as apartment buildings. And they don't have to be as expensive to build. You can build a mixture of luxury, high luxury and low luxury. Size can be different. There are a lot of ways that you can vary the cost. And I'm running out of time. I would probably like a second round. Thank you.
Mike and then Ellen, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you very much for the presentation. That's good work. I would highlight what Ann said, that Portland isn't Eugene, and working in this field, I can say that the markets have a number of really important differences. But this may be one of the very few issues in which Betty and I absolutely disagree. I think that mandatory is a prescription for how to make a housing crisis worse. Although I will say that voluntary is another issue altogether, and I would consider that. As a matter of fact, I mentioned previously, I hope that as we get into the new year, we'll be able to have a work session on a poll I will put out when we get back in January on extending the zones we've talked about down 6th and 7th and up 99. And I would say that with the transportation pieces already in place there, with all of the blight that's there right now, I think it's one of the best opportunities we have in front of us is to use all of those incentives that Ann put forward to see if we can't see more multifamily housing built along 6th and 7th and 99. There's bare ground in there. There's buildings that have tarps over them. It's the perfect place for us to begin incentivizing anything that it takes to build more housing, especially that which can be afforded by folks that can't find affordable housing right now. So I hope that we can certainly keep that list and make that a part of the conversation, and maybe even voluntary IZ is a part of it as well. I'm open to that. But I think I hope one of our goals in this next year is to see an influx of housing planned and built in those corridors. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan and then Claire.
Thank you, Mayor. And good presentation. I like the packet and I like the format. There's a lot of good information in there. One of those hard copy things I think I'll keep. Question about the PDX program. I know it's too early to tell, but one of the things when you look at it, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but maybe when you come back with information about it, is that sometimes when you flood the market, as it kind of looks like they did, the demand drops off and so does the supply. So, and the number of units drop. So in prep for a change, sometimes in the existing regime of rules, people flood the market and then the next year they don't see it. So that type of market is very cyclical to me, and so there's a multitude of reasons why things occur. So maybe we can do a little bit more analysis on that, unless you know.
No, I think how you just described it is exactly one of the reasons we don't know. I think time.
Yeah,
it's just too early.
Right.
You described it. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. So I'm willing to continue to look at inclusionary zoning and keep it in the toolbox with an
and do a deeper dive, especially around the information Betty talked about with other states, not just looking at Oregon, but why is it has been successful in other places, but also with an eye towards bringing back policies, programs, and incentives for this type of inclusionary zoning. Because to get more affordable housing, we need more tools, because except for the direct subsidy programs that we have that create projects, the MUPD dollars, the CET dollars, the CDBG and home dollars, I don't see we're going to create a heck of a lot more affordable housing units. And we need to be really cognizant of that and have metrics that show whether or not we are creating housing units that people can afford by income level and by cost of housing and by rent level. So we need to monitor that, because my fear is all the stuff that we've been talking about and all the stuff that we've been in the housing tools and strategy things isn't on target, and we are not going to create more affordable housing units, except for that stuff that we directly subsidize with the money that we set aside. So I think that all that other stuff is great, but it's not going to create what we started to set out with all that process, which is affordable housing units. I don't think we're going to get there, and we need more tools. So, and so I really look forward to having that conversation when we see that we're not actually creating more affordable housing. I had a question about one of the things in there, which is the Renters Protection Committee, and they are.
Alan, you're going to need to take a second round. You've used up time on this first one, so I'll put you down for that. Okay. All right, and I will turn it over to Claire and then Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Anne, for the information. I have a couple of specific questions and then some comments. So you said that Portland, under their mandatory IZ, all the developers have chosen to build the units. Does Portland's ordinance require that they are renting to certain income levels?
Let's see, I'm going to have Josh Berman. Can you weigh in? He's the one who did the interviews with staff up in Portland and knows the details of that program the best.
Let me unmute. Yeah, so thank you for having me. Portland does do income verification, and they require that developers submit the income of the residents coming in, and I think they recertify every year.
Wow, okay. And does the state allow the affordability period to be indefinite?
To my understanding, there's nothing that stops that. I know that Portland's period is 99 years, I believe.
Yep. Okay, well, that's very interesting. So, I think this is one of those rare times where I agree with some of the things Betty said and some of the things Mike said. I think Betty makes good points about the values of inclusionary zoning, but I'm not ready at this juncture to support mandatory inclusionary zoning. I'd like to see a little bit longer how it plays out in Portland, but I'm also interested, as Betty and Alan mentioned, in learning how other jurisdictions or states outside of Oregon have seen benefits from mandatory inclusionary zoning. But right now, I tend to lean towards what Mike was saying. We are within a wider housing market, and if we were to make it mandatory here in Eugene, I just worry that, we'll really be pushing developers to look to other jurisdictions to build. Now, I know Mike has made that point around our system development charges, but all the other jurisdictions have system development charges too. They would not have mandatory inclusionary zoning, and we would. So right now I am very interested in the idea of looking at 6th and 7th Avenue and Highway 99 foreseeing how we might expand our incentive programs or how we use our current mix of supports to do the voluntary inclusionary zoning. And I agree with Alan, you know, we need to keep looking for more tools in that we need to really be doing an accounting and a measurement of what we've done over the last 3 years. And, you know, is that moving us any closer towards some of the goals that we stated as a council? So I might be interested in the mandatory, you know, a little bit further down the road, but today that's not something I would be willing to support, but I can support the suggested motion that the city manager put in our packet.
Hey, thank you. Chris and then Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Claire asked a number of the questions I was going to ask, but I can maybe drill just a little bit deeper. You mentioned, Josh, that the term of affordability in Portland is 99 years. Is that incorporated into their mandatory inclusionary zoning code that it has to be 99 years?
That's correct. I believe it's.
So if I were a builder in Portland and I was going to build 25 units, I would have to make a certain percent of them affordable for 99 years.
Yep.
Okay, that's really interesting. That really the key for me was how long is a unit going to be affordable? And you're saying that in Portland, developers have chosen 100% of the time to go ahead and build those 99-year affordable units, but we do not know yet how many units that is compared to what used to be built. So we're still waiting to see whether a decline in overall units, even though those that are left are using it 100%, if it's dropped by a significant percent, we don't know that yet.
I'll let Anne weigh in on the economics of it, but that's correct in their affordability period and the developers opting to build rather than pay the fee in lieu.
Okay, I'm very interested in having units be available for a longer term. When I'm involved in the HUD funding, HUD requires that those units be affordable for the long term. So you know the unit's going to be here, and in 20 years, 25, 50 years, it's still going to be here and not converted into something more expensive. So it's very interesting. If we were to look at anything down here, I would want to know what the trade-off was of 99 years versus depressing the number of people who want to build, because like Mike, I'm of the opinion that you can't force people to build housing. You can't mandate affordability. If you do, they just won't build. They'll go somewhere else. On the other hand, if you can give them sufficient incentives, even to make 99 years pencil out, then that's the kind of thing you're looking for. So we have to be able to say, what are the partnerships we're willing to offer to make a builder willing to commit units for 99 years to be affordable? I want affordable units, but I know I'm not going to get them by just passing a law and mandating them. I'm going to get them by being a partner and having them say, this still pencils out. I can have these units for 99 years, but they'll still pencil out, which means what does this partner have to put into that equation in order for them to want to do it? And we still need to explore that. So I think we've got a lot of tools we've already played around with in MUPTI and some other things that work really well on the voluntary side. And I would probably go that direction right now. And I wouldn't really want to consider mandatory unless I've got a good sense of what those partnership tools would look like. And I don't know what those would be at this point.
Okay, Jennifer.
Thank you. So thanks so much for the presentation. It was very excellent. I also can support the motion as it is. I agree with many of the other speakers that while I'm interested in more information about mandatory, at this point it seems better to go with a voluntary system considering what we know and in our current market. most of the time when I think, well, when I've always thought of inclusionary zoning, I've always thought of it in the multifamily rental kind of scenario. But something Betty said, you know, why does it have to just be that? And so I guess my question is, when you were looking around at other systems, did you find one where they targeted single family developments or other types of developments besides apartment complex?
My understanding is that that would also apply to a subdivision that had more than 20 units. Josh?
Oh, okay.
You correct me, Josh, if I'm wrong?
I believe that's correct, and that's definitely the case for Ashland's program. I'm not positive about Portland, but there's nothing that's stopping that from being the case.
Okay, great. So that would be interesting to get information on that as well, because I know we've talked about how we need more affordable, you know, homes for folks that want to purchase, but they cannot afford to. And so that would be interesting to look in it as well. And then you were talking about income verification, and it sounds like in Portland they verify every year to make sure folks still qualify. Is that what I heard you say, Josh?
Yes, that's what they do.
Okay, so I'd be interested in how that works with people who, you know, suddenly, you know, you've gotten a promotion and all of a sudden you no longer, and you just get, I assume, kicked out, or how that would work, because that would be something I would be concerned about. Certainly we want to make sure these units are available for people who need it, but also at the same time, you get a slight increase in your salary, you know, like how does that, I don't know, the logistics for that I'm interested in if we're going to, you know, be expanding this all. And that's all I had. Thank you so much.
Mayor, if I see Assistant City Attorney Lauren Summers jumped in, and I think she says a little bit more information about how it applies to residential subdivisions.
Perfect.
Thank you. Councilor Ye, I just wanted to follow up on your question about multifamily apartment type complex versus a subdivision. And right now, the way that Senate Bill 1533 is drafted, mandatory exclusionary zoning only applies to the multifamily apartment complex type development. It may be that Ashland is different because they predated Senate Bill 1533, I'm not sure. But for mandatory programs, that is what is currently allowed by state law.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So I have 3 counselors for a second round, but I just have a sort of a question or a comment or a request, which is, it feels to me that voluntary inclusionary zoning and our existing MUPD law would be quite similar. And so I guess when you come back, it would be good to clarify how that might be the same or different. Since we already have that tool, how would we maybe be expanding the toolbox? It's not clear to me. And so with that question out there, I have, let's see, Betty, and then Alan, and then Mike.
Thank you. One comment, 99 years does end eventually. I was in Springfield, Illinois when a 99-year deal ended, and it was quite interesting, but none of us will see that. But anyway, that's good. I was glad to see that in the agenda, that it was good for 99 years. As for checking on the income, I think that's a good thing. I assume there would be a grace period for people to move out. I don't think you'd have to be on the street the next day, or maybe, but I have always thought that subsidized housing, people who live in subsidized housing should have their income checked. And when I've said that to some people, they say, well, no, we shouldn't penalize them for doing well. Well, I think they should, if they are doing well, they can afford to move into unsubsidized housing, they should do so and leave the subsidized units for someone who can't afford to something else. I wanted to mention, I saw in the agenda too, there was material about House Bill 2001, that horrible bill. That is not going to contribute, that most likely will not contribute to affordability of housing. I hope you all read the articles that Paul Conti recommended. He's done a lot of research on this situation. And what it does, in some places at least, is people who are not going to live in the houses, buy the affordable ones, demolish them, and build multiple units for a high price. It will actually most likely destroy, unless we resist it, will most likely destroy what the houses that are affordable. And there are whole neighborhoods where they're moderately priced houses, which someone will be trying to buy up. And it won't be poor people or moderate income people who will be profiting from that. So I still think we should resist in any way possible the implementation of House Bill 2001 instead of working on how to implement it. As for the motion, I don't think it does anything much. But I still think that we should look at, I understand the whole state of New Mexico has inclusionary zoning. I know that downtown Boston has it. I don't remember now all the other places. We even hired an expert to come here once about affordable housing, and he advocated inclusionary zoning as one of the tools. But the former mayor of Boston, a very colorful man who's no longer alive, but in 2000, I took an early morning freezing walk with him and some other people. And he was very proud of what inclusionary zoning had done for downtown, permitting people like teachers, for example, to be able to live there. And I think we need to look more into other places. I did mention to John when he was still city manager that we have somebody in Portland who knows a lot about it, but I'm running out of time again. Thank you.
Thank you. I have in a slightly different order than the hands, Alan and then Mike, and then we need to make some time for a motion on the table. So I'm just going to let this meeting roll on, and Alan and Mike, and then we'll put a motion out.
You don't need a motion to extend.
No, we can just do it.
Yeah, actually 99 years used to seem like a long time. And then the other day I was watching 60 Minutes and there was this woman, an expert on genetics and health. She said half the people born today will live past 100. I'm like, whoa. So puts different perspective on things. I could support the motion with the understanding that if we're going to look at voluntary inclusionary zoning without incentives is to me kind of worthless step. So if we're not going to come up with new incentives to stimulate participation, I think that's worthless or not as valuable. And also with the understanding that we're not just going to wait to talk more about mandatory until several years from now. I think we should be doing that in parallel, looking into the information that Betty was talking about and looking into it, because the timing is such that if we need to move to that, we don't want to start then. We want to have this information. So I think we're on a good track to do that. So I'd support it with the new incentives for voluntary and more information. This is a crisis, after all, about affordable housing. So lastly, I wanted to comment on the Renters Protection Committee. This is something I'm very interested in and extremely interested in. They made their recommendations to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee over a year or about a year ago. And in the AIS, it says their work has paused. I want to know why it's paused, why we haven't seen these recommendations. I saw preliminary ones that I thought were valuable. And if need be, I can make a motion to bring those forward to council for review. But I'm wondering what the heck's happened with that. It seems like it just is withering on the vine for lack of attention, but I want to bring attention to it.
I'm going to let Noble Flannery answer that question.
What's the status?
The Renters Protection Subcommittee for the Housing Policy Board did important work, and they are just about to restart. We had a meeting on Monday, and Norton is going to get that committee back together. It was a combination of things that paused the work, certainly the pandemic, but also watching to see what the state was doing with their eviction moratorium and that kind of thing. And then the block grant CV funds that we received, we did you did take action to put 30,000 of that towards a tenant hotline. So that is in place.
Yeah, but there were several other things beyond that. That was a really good no-brainer idea. So what's the timeline for that committee? Do you know that, Amanda?
I believe they want to start right away. They just need to get some logistics together that we're going to support them with.
Do we need a motion to have them bring back to council recommendations by a certain time frame so that they have a deadline, which is always good. I always like deadlines. It makes us do work.
Yes, I believe what Norton said at the meeting on Monday, and Councilor Pryor, please jump in at any point, is that they would be convening and it would take approximately 6 months for them to come to a recommendation on the next phase of policy.
Well, that seems like a long time since they did a year's worth of work before that, but I'll hold my powder dry for now. But if it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere, I'm going to bring it back up. Thanks.
I think it will. I think it will. Chris Wigg, who was the real energy behind that, has left the Housing Policy Board, and they're in the process of bringing new people back in. So I think it will get going.
Good. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Amanda.
Okay, Mike, last comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take at least one last opportunity to say how much I agree with Betty about one part of what she just said. When she's talking about, how, and I know we're past this with the state and everything else, but this council is going to have some decisions to make. When it comes to the consequences of House Bill 2001, she's 100% right. I'm doing it, and it's not just me. There are an awful lot of folks in the industry that I'm in who are looking at ways to finance the purchase of old, smaller, single-family homes on larger lots. The title companies are involved too already in creating the maps of them, so that work can be financed. Those can be torn down, and triplexes and fourplexes can be built. That work's already being done right now. So Betty's 100% right. The effects won't be what I think those who put that legislation forward intended. I think those new places that get built will be a good deal more expensive than the house that was there in the first place. So this is stuff that's already happening, and we should be taking it into account. I wanted to ask Ann one last question. With the 6,000 homes that were, or projects that were permitted and done in Portland the year before the ordinance went into place, what are we talking about there? We're just, for simple math, if an apartment complex has 60 units, we're talking about 100 builders, 100 developers maybe at the most. Some of them are repeats, so it's probably a lot less than that.
I don't have that data. I just have that one summary thing.
Right. Because I would suggest that we could call a lot of them and ask them. It's not that far away. It's not that many of them. We might just call them and ask them, hey, why did you rush your project? Because my guess, and I'm not an expert in that, mind you, but my guess is they're going to say, well, I want to make sure I got it done before this darn new mandatory thing came into place. And I'd really love to know the answer to that. And we could by just getting on the phone, I bet.
I don't think there's any doubt. The surge is absolutely, they have clear that was, they were getting in before the new rule went into effect.
Right. So whether or not that number per year that dropped by 90% the next year comes back at a slow pace at some point 10 years from now or whatever it is, you can see that creation of mandatory was one that absolutely pushed people to get it done fast, to get it done before, in order to avoid it. And it may have impacts that decrease the amount of housing that go on for years. And we don't know about that part yet, but we know, according to what you're saying, it had a consequence that wasn't necessarily good. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thanks.
Thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Emily to put a motion on the table. You're still muted, Emily.
I move to direct the city manager to provide an update in early 2021 on housing tools and strategies to discuss discuss housing affordability overall, progress made to date, and expanded options for tools, including voluntary inclusionary zoning.
Second.
Any last minute comments or questions about that Betty?
Just that I will vote against it because voluntary inclusionary zoning doesn't mean anything.
Okay, fair enough. All right, all in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and opposed? 1. So it passes 6-1. And thank you all very much. Really a worthwhile conversation. Thanks for that report, Anne. And with that, we are adjourned.